Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Country Boy Cryptids. Tonight we got a special guest, William Nighthawk of Nighthawk High Strangeness, and I got my friend here, Les Odell, and I guess we'll jump right in here. William, you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I was born Native American, and I was born into a family that, well, let's just put it this way: the entire property, including the house, was highly active in the paranormal. I did my first investigation in the paranormal when I was 16, and I've been doing it ever since. I've been into the black arts of the witchcraft. So I know that aspect of it very well. I've done the skinwalker ceremony. Um, I had my first encounter with a physical encounter with a cryptid, Bigfoot, when I was 12 years old. Other than that, I only heard him out in the distance in our property and around our area and heard rumors of him. So, and legends from my own father. So, and I'm an ordained minister for the Native American Church, a military vet, and that's pretty much the end of it.
That's the gist of
Yeah, and it's a short tale.
Excuse me, guys. Just getting over this cold. Let me bring this picture up here. I found this the other day, and I've never seen this picture before.
Huh. Yeah, that looks like the snallygaster right there in your state in West Virginia.
Yeah, it says it's a thunderbird, but I heard you talk about the snallygaster. It said the
Yeah,
photo was sent to Coast radio program by someone named Ernest Todd. Details
yeah,
about the origin and context of the photo were not provided. The photo appears to be taken from a newspaper, but it could be a forgery, what they said.
right.
But man,
Yeah,
that almost looks like that picture. Uh,
the one that
the,
I have.
yeah, the one that you have. I mean, the
Yeah,
head. I bet you when it sets back, that head sets back.
yep, yep, yep. And that was taken not only probably 200 yards from where we live. That picture that we have. So
Yeah,
that's the one that my son took. So yeah,
that,
same wing and everything on that.
yeah, and it looked like I had a tail coming off.
Yeah, yeah,
Off of it.
yeah. That's the spitting image of what they call a snallygaster. Now snallygasters have been spotted in West Virginia for God, I can't remember the first sighting. I mean, it's a long, long time. Even the Native Americans, the Shawnee, spoke of them in the area. Um, which, by the way, I'm part Shawnee too. Um, so that legend is kind of scary. They talked about it taking off with dogs that were in the encampments, small game animals. They've seen them pick up raccoons, coyotes. There was reports of a really big one, which would even try and take children. So yeah,
Wow,
the Shawnee were terrified of it. So
wow, that's crazy. Now you're Lakota too, right? You're First Stations, ain't you too, William?
oh yeah, yep, yes I am.
Yeah, here's uh
Yeah,
now that's the Thunderbird.
Yeah,
yeah,
Thunderbird or the Garuda.
yeah. Well, some people would even say over in England and the UK area, they'd call that the what do they call that? Oh, geez, I can't think of the name of it now. The Phoenix.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Phoenix. So Sorry, I'm in a lot of pain tonight, guys. So bear with me, okay? I had some spine shots, so it's really got my back really hurting right now. So just bear with me. I may be a little slow to start, but I'll be all right.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. That thing looks like it's got bat wings almost.
Yeah,
That,
yeah.
that
And
alligator.
that's not the only picture. There's a picture too floating around of a pterodactyl with a bunch of Confederate soldiers that apparently had shot it.
Yeah,
Um, and
that
there's
one's been around a long time, and I think was proven
yeah,
a hoax many years ago.
yeah. Well,
The
one
other
of
one,
them, the one of them's been proven a hoax. Yeah, but the one I'm talking about is the guys are kneeling down with it. They're not standing up holding it. So
Yeah. I think I've seen that.
yeah,
I think you had it on your show.
yeah. There's only like 3 or 4 guys that are in Confederate uniforms. I think the one Les is talking about, I believe Les is the one where they have like 8 guys standing up and they're holding it up against the side of a barn. Yeah, that has been proven as a fake.
Man, it
no,
looks real though. I mean,
Yeah,
honestly, from the looks of it.
yeah, yeah. You'd be surprised what people can pull off for fakes, especially with nowadays with AI. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
you can't,
yeah,
you can't put your neck out on the line anymore when somebody comes up and says, "Oh, I got a trail cam pic of the dog man," let's say,
yeah.
and here's this 12-foot tall, hairy canine Arnold Schwarzenegger, standing there, I'm
Right,
sorry. I'm sorry, but unless I see it myself, I'm not calling it a dog man. I'll just call
right.
it interesting. So
Yeah, I hear
David
you.
Lester in the comments says for centuries a large winged beast known as a snallygaster is to terrify Maryland. That was where the original sightings come from, was in Maryland, and it was mainly it got its name Snallygaster because it was derived from the word or German word Snallygeister, and
mm-hmm.
the mispronunciation ended up being Snallygaster.
Yep.
Usually, there's been very little sightings in West Virginia. I mean, there's been a
Yep.
few.
Yep.
There's one that has to do with a gentleman. Um, Let me think. I'm trying to look here. I'm trying to remember what county it was in. But anyway,
I know that they've been seen in Pendleton County. I know that, and Pocahontas.
yeah, There was an old newspaper count from I think it was the 40s, 1935. Yeah, Pendleton Times newspaper. Kenny Bland in Pendleton County. He claimed to have seen it. Claimed that he was treed, like scared up a tree because of this thing. Um, so, but yeah, it
Hmm.
definitely Maryland, the York, Pennsylvania area has had a lot of sightings and that of the snallygaster. Um,
Yeah.
but if you look into a lot of the lore or a lot of the history of the snallygaster in those areas, a lot of it was sad to say. The story come from Germans, and then later on was used to well later on had to do with moonshine running and stuff, and they would use the story to scare away people. And then earlier there was actually stories about where slave owners actually used that story to keep slaves from running off as well. So
Yeah.
so who knows?
Yeah.
Who
That
knows
doesn't.
if that and the picture you showed there the first time, it almost looks like a pterosaur, which pterosaurs are kind of like pterodactyls, but except they had the pointed tail and pointed head. And it
No,
actually
no,
fits.
no.
It actually fits. The shape of that thing actually looks what they call it over in Papua New Guinea the roping. It
Yeah.
has that shape.
Yeah. You're right. Yep. But they say that thing glows, though, didn't they? Isn't
Yeah,
there a legend about that thing in Papua New Guinea glowing?
yeah. They say its belly is luminous. It illuminates somehow. I actually have a
Yeah.
friend that grew up in Papua New Guinea. She's an American, but she was over there with the missionary group when was a kid. She grew up for quite a few many years over there, and she claims to have seen them, and that was just and the tribe that she was in, that was living with, that was the whole thing. It was about the roping. Don't go here a certain time. Don't go out at night. Certain, but and the ones they claimed to have seen, had the glowing belly and made no sound when it would fly. So
yeah, that's kind of like our legends of some of the cryptids that are out there. We used it to make sure that the young ones didn't go wandering off in the woods in the dark, so kept them close to camp and to the encampment when we were back in the 1800s and all that. So yeah, a lot of the legends like that, Native American wise, were derived for that specific reason, like Yaya Lee, which is a Bigfoot on the West Coast, Oregon, Washington area, where Yaya Lee, if she would catch you out after dusk, she'd put you in her basket and carry you off. You wouldn't see your family again. So, but yeah, that's.
And I think many cultures have done that. Have always had some kind of cautionary tale. Whether it's Native Americans or whether it's English. With the especially like the black shuck and stuff like that, or even here in Appalachia. We've even today I'll still tell my kids stories just to keep them doing something. Don't go here because something will get you. And my dad did the same thing to us. And there's always them cautionary tales or whatever you want to call them to kind of keep usually kids and others in line. So
I always got told about the Wampus cat. That was always what my grandpa teased me about. Wampus cat, Wampus cat's going to get you.
Yeah. What's some of the other ones? What's some of the other ones there? Oh, that's Deer Woman there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that's really not Deer Woman, but you get it? Not Deer Woman.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, the Deer Woman legend is traditionally just a legend of basically a scorned, lost type of an entity that was derived from love, and became something like you see, grotesque and in every deformed nature of the word of a monster, looking type of an entity. I've always had a feeling that the Deer Woman was a demon called Ale. And Ale is a demon who can be a female or a male, and often is depicted with antlers on her head, which you see something like that with deer antlers, and I believe a lot of the demonic entities in the our realm right now, in our world right now, are actually manifesting themselves as certain cryptids. I have a theory, and so does Dennis, about the eyes being the window of the soul, and the soulless, not having one, like demons, would have red glowing eyes. And most encounters of cryptid creatures out there right now, most nefarious, evil, malevolent encounters where the cryptids are said to be very, very aggressive, are described with red glowing eyes. And every encounter that's like that has either been an encounter with somebody hunting or having hunting dogs, or someone often in the middle of nowhere, basically walking up and disturbing their territory, where they're doing a hunt and stuff. So, and apparently the red glowing eyes is the key as far as I'm concerned. Now, the ones with the red glowing, without the red glowing eyes, a lot of the yellow and the green eyes that you see, and especially the yellow eyes, those are probably your more flesh and bone, undiscovered cryptids. Like I've said before too, with the whole Bigfoot thing, my family traditions has taught me, passed down from my great grandfather and grandfather to father to me, was that there was 4 distinct tribes of Sasquatch, of Bigfoot. And the first one was the big ones coming out of Alaska that could be up to 20 feet tall, and that they were really, really mean and very, very strong. They were the ones that would pick the trees up out of the ground and shove them back in the ground upside down. Okay. Then you got the small ones that came up from South America that are in the swamps and stuff of Louisiana, Florida, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama. Those areas have the small one, which is kind of like an ape-like one. They don't get any more than about 8 feet tall, but they're very aggressive too. Of course, who wouldn't be living in a swamp full of other deadly creatures?
Right.
And then the third one was what we know as basically Bear Man, as far as my people go, but you all know him. There's some feedback there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there was just some feedback there. I couldn't hear you for a while there. The third one is basically the Gugway out of the upper Canadian area on into Montana, parts of Michigan, Minnesota, that area. And they're very aggressive too, but they've got this almost bear-like snout on them. And they're a massive thing too. They can get up to 10 feet tall. And then finally you have the more Neanderthal looking ones. And the funny thing about it is everybody depicts the Neanderthal throughout history as being these little 5 foot tall things, that were dumber than a box of rocks, and they weren't. It's actually been proven that their brain capacity was more than ours is. So they were probably more intuitive and more problem solving than we actually are in our theories of thinking and all that. But the human looking ones get to be about 9 to 10 feet tall too, and they're more family oriented. They protect their families. They make sure that their hunts are not disturbed. But they're also the ones that like to gift. Okay, they like to gift you things, and they like to be gifted things too. And they basically like to be just left alone. So, but that's the 4 types of the Sasquatch and the Bigfoot. I know we had talked about the Wendigo before. That's another Native American legend that's very prominent in this area, all the way up into Montana and Minnesota area with the Ojibwe. And the Wendigo is, a lot of people want to put the Wendigo in this cryptid category. And, as a researcher and an investigator, and a field investigator, when you're out there, you need to determine first off, if it's a viable witness and sighting, okay? And then B, you got to figure out which category you're going to put this in. Are you going to put this sighting in a flesh and bone category? Are you going to put it in like an interdimensional supernatural category? Or are you going to put it in like just a basic supernatural one where it's like a demon per se, where it can come and go, through supernatural means. Well, the Wendigo is not a flesh and bone cryptid, okay? And before everybody gets bent out of shape out there and says, "Oh, wait a minute, it's flesh and bone, it's real, it's been spotted with deer antlers on its head and a deer skull and all this other stuff." First off, that's not the description of what Native Americans have been saying all along. What Native Americans have been saying all along with the Wendigo is that it's more of a possession of the body, and it gives you an insatiable hunger, okay? And it turns the people into cannibals, okay? That's what the Native Americans have been saying. Now, it's my theory that it's the thing that everybody is seeing out there with the deer antlers and the deer skull, standing 7 feet tall, lanky and skin and bone and whatever. just
Well,
first off, if they're not manifesting it themselves out of their own fear, they're probably seeing what I call the Rakshasa. Now, Rakshasa is a demon. Okay. Now, this demon has a deer skull and antlers on its head. Okay. It has a hunger so hungry that it eats his lips off. Okay.
oh
Which
wow.
is basically what a description of a Wendigo is. Okay. That it got so hungry that it ate its lips off. Um, it looks emaciated, but yet it's super, super strong, and it can mimic anything. It can mimic a voice, a sound, anything to manipulate you to get you out to where you're out in the woods by yourself with it. Okay. And then, as a demon it will possess you. So,
So it's pretty much a demon then. In other words,
in my book, the Wendigo is not a flesh and blood. That it is more of a supernatural being entity. Um, and if anybody's seeing anything manifest itself like is described with the deer antlers and the deer skull, it's more than likely demonic in
yeah,
nature, and it's just manifesting itself because it's probably used that type of a cover to get to possess people. Okay, ultimately a demon's main goal is to not only make a human suffer, okay, and regret basically having a soul, but it's also because they hunger for the soul because they don't have one. Okay, and that's
yeah.
why they ultimately try to possess human bodies. So
Catherine has a thing here, William. She said Clip High has a video on YouTube that he describes his father and soldiers using red night vision equipment in the Vietnam War. The Army had to switch to green because you could see demons with the red.
I haven't heard that, but I can tell you right now that every time somebody, it's like a few of my other friends that are doing the dogman research out there right now. Um, I've actually recommended to them to get what they call a full spectrum camera. Full spectrum camera, you can see on different spectrum on levels of light and color. So they've had more success with a full spectrum camera in taking pictures of things than they have with regular IR. So I can see what she means by that switching to green. Um,
Yeah. She said she's seen her and her daughter. Let me find it here. She said her and her daughter seen one of those in Yellowstone Park. Back then, she had no idea what it was. They was driving and they just sped up. She said it was in the early spring of 2005.
hmm. Well, that is something that I'm glad she didn't stick around to actually encounter it, because
Right.
they have been known to turn people against each other. You got to understand something. When you're dealing with that type of a supernatural entity, they're going to try and manipulate any way possible to control the narrative and to control you and make your fear come out more, because they're going to feed off of your fear. Your fear gives them energy, kind of like an energy vampire.
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked about that on your show. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a Facebook user, so I can't tell who it is. But so the demons
Yeah.
can be seen with infrared light.
Yep.
But yeah, that's that Wendigo thing's pretty wild. Not something you want to run across, though.
No, you know, and honestly, um, I think that the reason that we're seeing a lot of this stuff too is everybody's talking about how it's the end of times, the end of days, and all that. And you know, I think that that just heightens the fear factor up. It's like turning the fear factor up from a 5 to a plus 10. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and these the demonic are they're thriving on it. That's their livelihood. They live for that. That's what they want. They want that fear up there because it makes them stronger. So
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I mean, just like you and Dennis talk, you know, the bell's thinning. You know, you got CERN out there doing stuff that they shouldn't even be messing with. God
yep,
knows what's going to come out of that, you know, if they ever get it working right. Or
yep,
it done has come out, you know.
yep, yep. Never show fear. Never give it an opportunity to knock your faith down either. No matter what your faith is, no matter what you believe in. You know, there's a number of times when I've grabbed onto my medicine bundle and I've said a prayer too, dealing with the demonic, and it's it's never easy. It doesn't get easier with time either. If anything, it gets more difficult with time. But yeah, you just never give it any sign of fear, and never let it break and shatter your faith. Because as soon as you do that, it has you.
How
Yeah.
many how many do you think are these things, like, not necessarily spiritual things, but how many of these cryptid things that are around that could be out there? How many do you think could really be tulpas?
Could possibly be demonic. Could be demonic.
No,
Is that what you?
no, no. How many do you think could be tulpas?
Oh, well.
I mean, you see some that.
Honestly, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, you see some of these pop up in more recent, and a lot of them seem to have like internet sensation. And for those that don't know what a tulpa is, it's basically a thought form that manifests.
Right. It's
It's manifested through thought.
manifestation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, when you're talking to somebody that believes in manifestation, because when I do ceremony, that's how we get to the point, the heightened point of our ceremonies is through manifestation. Um, so manifestation to me is it could be 100% of the time, um, because we all have that within us. Just the majority of us don't know how to use it to our advantage. Okay, like in magic ceremonies and witchcraft and all that. Okay, Native American ceremonies and all that. Um, so we all have this ability to manifest within us. So if you take that fear factor too and put that in with the mix in each individual, you know, most of the people that manifest without knowing it into the tulpa is doing it not knowing it, but it's based on what they fear the most. So it's going to come forth and manifest in front of them in the thing that frightens them the most. Okay. So, and most people, they hear these Native American legends, or they see a scary movie, and honestly, that's where a lot of this comes from. I think there's probably I'd say at least a good 50% of the sightings out there that are self-manifested.
Yeah, like the Slender Man and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I
I mean,
mean,
you got things like the Slender Man, and then you got what the newest one is Siren Head. What in the heck is a siren head? I
Right.
mean, you got stuff out there, that you got real viable things to be afraid of. Okay, all right, you really do. And then you have the demonic on top of it. You don't need to make up other things to be afraid of. Okay, believe me, there's enough out there to make people fear for themselves, without having to make stuff up. But Slender Man, that was a whole internet sensation, I guess, that went viral and went bad. Uh, Siren Head, I can't even. I'm sorry, but I laugh every time I hear that. Oh, there's a Siren Head. sighting in Minnesota. There's a siren head sighting in Canada. Well, sorry, I don't know what they've been drinking up in Canada, but I want some. So
Right?
Yeah, that's true. Poltergeist can be self-manifested. I mean, in a lot of poltergeist, cases, there's an agent, that usually has some kind of psychic kinetic ability that seems to, make it
Yep.
worse, I guess you'd say.
And then you got a lot of these young kids that get out there nowadays and want to get into the paranormal and do their own investigation. And what do? They get out there and they basically, get out there and they become disrespectful, and they try to intimidate, they try to provoke, they try to engage things through Ouija boards. I mean, they're doing all kinds of different things that is just amping this whole thing up, And like I said, you got to take it down a few notches, When you go into the paranormal field, you got to do your research first before you even step one foot into doing a field investigation, because it'll go south.
As far as investigating the paranormal like that, Ouija boards, there's a lot of stigma with the Ouija boards. I don't use a Ouija board, but it's still a form of communication, even if you're using some kind of ITC device, or if you're using scrying, it's pretty much the same thing. Basically, it all boils down to is what your intent, or your intent is of what you're doing. And like you said, especially if somebody doesn't have the experience and has no idea what they're doing, it all boils down to that. I mean, I don't use Ouija boards, like I said, but in a roundabout way, they're really not any different than any other way of communication with the spirit world. It's just, it has has gotten a stigma over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Like what I said, and I've heard other people talk about it. That's why Native Americans won't mention certain entities' names.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like Kyle, I was telling you about Kyle earlier. It's hard to get him to talk about any. Like he said, he's been trying to talk to people. Shane said he's been trying to talk with the Native Americans out in California, and they won't talk to you.
Yeah, I know. I know. I've actually, tried to help him in that, and unfortunately, a lot of the Native Americans that I knew out that way have since passed. So I'm not going to be much help to him out there. Now, if he was here locally with me, I'd be able to help. But as far as the Native American legends go of all these cryptids, including like the water babies. We'll get onto that here in a second, but since the first time that the Europeans and any non-native race out there set foot on soil here in the Americas, they never believed Native American legends. They never believed in the Wendigo or Sasquatch or water babies or the Pugwudgies or the different entities, the Thunderbird. They didn't believe it, until they started getting further and further out by themselves and starting to encounter things that they couldn't explain. And then they started thinking, well, maybe there is something with this. And then you get all the Europeans, the Germans and the Irish and all these other nationalities that have migrated here and settled into the Appalachian Mountains range. And you got this Appalachian magic now, this folklore magic, which is going to even put more emphasis on the blood-soaked ground that they're living on. So you get all this amplification, and it's just going to keep amplifying year after year after year, and that's what's been going on this whole time.
Yeah, Robin said even watching certain films can pull these things in. Plus, They try to deceive you to think they are good. Reading their energy is like a lie detector.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, there is. You know, when you're in doubt, it's better not to just mess with it. Okay.
Right.
Don't when you if you have one shred of doubt or you're just uncertain of something, just don't mess with it. That's the way to do it. Just walk away from it. Okay. It's like Dennis and I tell people all the time, you know, when they come to us for cryptid advice, when they see this red-eyed cryptid, you know, we tell them turn and walk away, you know, ignore it, walk away, don't feed into it, because as soon as you feed into it, you're going to get a reaction that you're not going to want or like. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. Um.
Hey, Chris, I want to answer David Lester there about the Flatwoods Monster. I don't know if
Oh
you've seen
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Les.
David, the Flatwoods Monster was seen in September on September 12th, 1952. But actually, what happened is there was a ball of light that came across the sky. It landed in a nearby field at a farm. There's some boys that were at a local playground, seen this ball of light. They went to their home, got their mother, their cousin, which was a National Guardsman, and I think there was one or two other. There were seven of them all together. So there's two other boys. There's three boys to start with, two other boys come along, and the National Guardsman and their mother. They went to investigate. One of them had a flashlight. As they were walking along, they noticed there was a pulsing light nearby in the tree row. Uh, one boy shines the light in that direction, and that's when they claim to see. The newspapers make it sensationalized. It says 7 to 10 foot creature floating, um, emitted a pungent mist that kind of supposedly made all the witnesses gag and choke. There's two of the witnesses are still alive. Eddie and Freddie Mae both are still alive. Uh, they they both claim contrary to what internet shows a lot about the subject. They said they'll to this day they say it was not a biological thing. It was a mechanical thing. Uh, if it was anything biological, what they seen was actually a vessel for something biological. So the Flatwoods Monster thing really fits more into the realm of UFOs than cryptids. Um, but it, there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of misinterpretate or misinformation on the internet on the online. A lot of places you'll read that some of the witnesses died like shortly after. Some say they died a few years later. All died of throat cancer or something like that. No, uh, the two witnesses, like I said, two of them are still alive. Their mother, Kathleen May, she didn't die until she was 91 years old. There's also stories that there was a dog with him. They said that the dog died like the next day, and Eddie and Freddie Mae both will tell you that no, that they had that dog for several more years. They hunted with it for several more years. So it's an interesting story. It's a pretty cool story. I believe they've seen something, but cryptid wise, I don't think so. Uh, and then recently I was actually run into a gentleman. I was doing research on giants, and I was telling him what I was doing. I said I researched strange stuff in West Virginia, and he said, "You want to hear a strange story?" And this man's 73 or 74, I think, or somewhere in that neighborhood. He said, "You know the Flatwoods Monster?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "I seen that thing," and he went on to tell me a story about when he was like two and a half, almost somewhere in there, 2.5 years old in 1952. He looked out his window and he sees not what you see some of the drawings. He only sees like the bottom part, like the mechanical part, and he describes how perfect the pipes and the stuff that were on the bottom, and it was floating and it was luminous, and yeah, even he says it wasn't anything biological. So then there's other stories that spread about it. Supposedly there was another story or another sighting the day after, and I didn't through the things I've read and stuff, I really didn't think that story was actually true. Uh, it was George Stanowski was coming home from I think it was somewhere out in West Ohio or something. I don't know why he was clear down to West Virginia going back to New York, but supposedly he's seen this thing, him and his wife, and that story has always been kind of maybe iffy until I talked to this guy recently, and I talked to him, the George Stanowski story, if it is true, may have took place pretty close to where this other gentleman I've been talking to actually lives, and it's kind of funny that he lives in a town called Strange Creek, West Virginia, because I mean strange stuff going on. But yeah, that's basically the nutshell of the Flatwoods Monster. It hit. It was a worldwide sensation. I mean, it hit the AP news lines like the day, like within hours. And then there were some other supposed sightings or whatever that took place in other areas. If they did, maybe. If they didn't, or they may have just been news sensationalism. A couple of those were in Ohio. One of them was in Wheeling, and it was like on the 15th of September, I believe. And it was weird. I mean, it had some of the same characteristics of the story, the pungent odor and stuff like that. But if you look it up for Wheeling, they don't even call it the Flatwood. They don't even call it the Flatwoods Monster Hits Wheeling or anything like that. For some reason, it got the name Bashful Billy. I have no idea where that come from. And if you look up Bashful Billy, it has nothing. It doesn't look anything like what you see the artist picture of the Flatwoods Monster that was done by a sketch artist in New York. It's basically like a dragon looking thing in lederhosen, and I have no idea how they got that picture. But so I don't know. So there was a couple more stories, and then like I said, in Ohio there was a couple farmers that claimed that one of the farmers claimed that their grandkids actually seen this thing in the field. So it's a pretty cool story, but as far as cryptid I don't consider it cryptid. A lot of people don't, and I think it's more UFO than anything, because if you look into even there's a pretty well-known book out there that you can find. It's pretty in-depth book about that incident and a bunch of the UFO flap at that time, across the East Coast. And Frank Frascino is the one who wrote it. If you ever want to know a bunch of information on the incident, that's probably the best, as far as volume of information out there.
Yeah.
Well, that Facebook user brings up a good point about the Flatwoods Monster, suspiciously like a probe. Because at the same time, wasn't that when the Grinning Man was spotted?
No. 1952, the Grinning Man was in 1967, I think, or 60s, in the 60s, like 15 years later. Yeah, the Grinning Man is injured, basically another name for injured cold, which was the first. Well, there's actually, I'm trying to remember which way it went. The first sighting that actually mentions injured cold, it may have been in New Jersey, but I can't remember if that was before or after the West Virginia near Parkersburg. It was in Woodrow Derenberger was a delivery driver, was coming down 77 outside of Parkersburg when this craft actually passes him along the interstate, gets in front of him and stops. And that's when this being dressed in like a shiny suit gets out and comes to his window, and he tells him a bunch of stuff, and he tells him, I'm injured cold, that's my name. And we're not, and the story goes that they actually, struck up a friendship later on, and injured cold would come and go to at Woodrow Derenberger's house and take him to his planet Lanos and stuff like that. But yeah, the Grinning Man was just another name that was given to injured cold.
Now that sounds kind of like the whole thing with Valiant Thor too, when apparently he came and he visited with the president and spent time on in the Oval Office and hung out with the whole White House crew back in the day, and said he'd be back, and I don't think he ever did come back. I mean, I've heard of one instance where he did come back, but it wasn't actually proven that he did. But yeah, that's interesting to me, because when they talk about the probe and stuff, they're talking obviously like a a robotic type of something to do, kind of like a pre-encounter type of a thing, like in the Rendlesham Forest over in the UK,
Yeah.
that kind of a thing.
Well, the George Sanowski, the case with it almost reminds you like of the Rendlesham Forest, where where they saw the lights and stuff into the forest.
Right.
Well, that's what happened there. He was coming up Route 4 above Strange Creek, in there between Strange Creek and Gasaway area, somewhere in there, and he pulls along the side of the road because he sees this strange light in the woods, and when he goes into the woods, he actually sees a craft at first. So he decides, as he's coming back to the car, he hears his wife screaming, and he turns around to see what she's screaming about, and that's when he claims, the story goes that he's seen the same thing, a floating thing, mechanical, but this time it was actually like, by the drawings you can find in Frank Frascino's book, it almost looks like a reptilian type creature inside this floating apparatus. Uh, he tries to get back to his car, or once he gets back to his car, he can't get the car started. This thing, like, if I remember right, circles the car several times. There's a pungent odor, a smell. And later they noticed that when this thing put its hand on the car, there's actually a burnt handprint on the car.
Yeah,
So,
I remember hearing about the burnt handprint. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we all know how I feel about the reptilian thing right
Yeah.
now.
Yep.
I've made it very clear on several of my podcasts that there is an agenda here, that reptilians have said they've been here with the Anunnaki, which some people, some researchers believe that they are the Anunnaki, and others believe that they aren't the Anunnaki, that they were the first beings that were created by the Anunnaki. There's all kinds of different theories out there, and they are just theories because we don't have any proof. But I've always been under the belief, with my military background too, and what I've seen and done, that there is the shadow government, and that there is some type of reptilian connection, alien wise, going on with our government. Okay. And it's not just our government, it's the entire world government. So, which ironically, they're trying to get a one world government right now, actually, and a cryptocurrency. So, digital currency. So, I'm not a big fan of the whole reptilian thing. Okay. To me, you have your reptilians that could be demonic. You have your reptilians that could be crypt, and you have your reptilians that could be interdimensional or alien in nature. So, take your pick. I don't like any of them. So,
well, I'm not saying that they called it reptilian. I said if you look at the picture that is drawn in the Frank Frascino book, from the description, that's the best thing that I can come up with that supposedly would look like. I don't know if Chris can pull one up there or not. Just put in Frametown, if you can, Chris. Put in Frametown monster. You'd probably be able to get it.
Okay. I ain't figured that part out yet, or Wes. I'm still figuring this out.
Well, I can't do anything. It won't let me comment or anything. So unless I go on my phone.
Yeah, I can't bring up any alien stuff, I don't think, or reptilian stuff, because I didn't put it on here, which I should have. So we got Miriam's on. William, or the Native Americans, are they still passing on to the children? I mean, I know you got kids. Are you guys still passing?
My kids are grown now, man.
Yeah,
I got grandkids, but yeah, my kids are grown, and yeah, I passed as much along as they would want to know, basically. But there is a movement going back to the traditional ways of Native people. especially with the knowing of the water babies. You know, the water babies, they're a whole a whole different animal, to tell you the truth. Um, you've heard of the Japanese legend of the lizard that looks like a turtle in the water, right?
Yeah, the
Where
Kappa.
you know, yeah, the kappa. I couldn't remember the
Mhm.
name. Thank you, Les. But that whole legend is kind of like what we have here with the water babies, um, but with a different twist. Water babies have been around. They're supposed to lure people into the water and pull them in. They're like a fae, okay?
Mhm.
If you can picture that, they're kind of like the fae. And I'm sorry, I got a bloody mess on my hand, so give me a second.
Oh, you okay?
Yeah, well, no, that finger just decided to bleed.
Oh, yeah, the one you shut the car doors.
Yeah,
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 and
yeah. I remember you.
it's going pretty good. So, but anyways, water babies basically they try to pull the people in, lure them in with you know a song, or they call them by name to get them to come close, and they lure them to their death. Okay. Um, they are considered a fae in some cultures. In other cultures, they are considered a kind of like a elemental. Okay. Where they can hide within the elements, and they use their powers derived from the elements. Okay. Um, they have been described in many different ways. They've been described as pugwudgies, which is like up in New England, where they're, you know, maybe 2 feet tall to 3 feet tall, little like almost like goblin looking type of things, um, grayish skin. Some have reddish skin. And then you have some that have been reported as looking like gnomes. And I'm talking regular, like, like the evil leprechaun, movie gnome type of a thing. Um, where they are evil, and they try to get into your home and whatever to get to you, to harm you. So, but once they're in your home, it's kind of like the story of and the legends of the black-eyed kids. Once they get into your home, they disappear, and you can only hear them, but you can't see them. So yeah, the water babies are very, very malevolent and very, very not liking humans. So
Is it kind of like the brownies, William?
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, brownies are fays. Yeah, they are
Yeah,
fey in nature, um, but there's more to it. There's more of a connection to the water, the energy from the water. Okay. Um, it's kind of like the theory with portals opening up, out in the middle of nowhere. Anybody that deals with the paranormal and has dealt with, the Wiccan and the stuff like that kind of stuff, knows that you can basically, as long as you have energy, you can open a portal. Okay. CERN knows that very well. uh,
exactly. Yeah,
um, but as long as you have like a tree, there's energy. Waters, there's energy. Granite boulders are energy, which ironically, all three of those things are combinations of to where people come up missing in the 411 missing.
yeah,
So
yeah.
water, granite boulders, and forested areas, heavy forested areas. All three of those elements are involved in the missing people, which is another part of the research I've been trying to help out on. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's so many different things that derive power from what we call Makal Wakan, Sacred Mother Earth. Okay, including our own people. when we do ceremony, we draw our power from Mother Earth. We connect to Mother Earth, and we connect to the Sky Father, okay, and to the spirits, and we derive power from that. We get our spiritual power from that to do ceremony. We can call forth the wind, we can call forth the rain, we can call forth thunder. I mean, that's just the way it is. When you have that connection, because we're conduits. And we're a connection from Mother Earth to the sky, to the Creator. So, and we always will be, and it goes back also. You got to think too. The reason a lot of these legends are coming to life and being manifested is because of the sign of the times of what's going on. There's so much going on negative wise to the environment. Okay. And I'm not getting into this whole green, energy type of stuff. I'm not even talking about that. And I'm certainly not saying there's climate change. But I'm just talking about being respectful when you're going out into the woods or up into the mountains or going to the lake to go fishing. Being respectful, by interacting more with the environment on a positive manner than a negative one, like drinking beer and leaving your beer bottles and cans all over the place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Act in a way to where if you see somebody's beer bottles, pick them up, put them in a paper bag or a plastic bag and dump it in the garbage on your way out. That's how you act responsibly and respectfully. That's what needs to be done in order to reverse all this negative. That's what needs to be done. We need to be more positive. So,
yeah. Sasquatch Mountain Mama said, "I feel like CERN has opened a lot of things that can't be undone." Yeah, it's not good. That's for sure, huh, William?
No, not at all.
Well, I know you're not feeling very
Primal
well.
Pride.
We're at the hour, unless you want to keep going.
Well, I'm starting to get a little burned out. That thing was bleeding pretty good.
Yeah, and getting them shots didn't help today either.
Yeah. Well, on the brighter side, my finger looks more normal.
It was bad the other day when you first did it. Man, it was purple.
Yeah, it felt bad.
Yeah, I'm excited. Do you got a date yet for the missing 411 indigenous girls?
That's going to be that's going to be at the end of the month, at the end of this month. I can't remember if it's the 29th. I think it is the 29th of this month.
Mm-hmm.
If not, it's the first week of March. So
yeah.
But yeah, I'm still, I'm burning the candle at both ends for an old man that is fighting cancer for a third time. So I'm burning the candle at both ends, so doing all this stuff. Plus, I'm trying to get geared up for spring when spring comes, so I can actually get out in the field again and start doing, and practicing what I've been preaching to everybody on here. So I've already got a team set up to go out with me. So, and in fact, Dave Lester is one of the investigators I'm going to be having. So,
yeah. Melissa going too?
Oh yeah. And Tracy. Hopefully Tracy's going. Hopefully my wife will be going.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it without her.
Right.
She's the one that keeps me focused.
Right.
Because normally, if it was just me, I'd go out there and I would just wander off until I got out in the middle of nowhere by myself, and I would have my encounter, and that's usually how it happens,
Yeah.
So, but she's going to be hopefully the one to keep me focused. So,
You guys taking Jacob out, or you guys keep him at home when you go out?
I don't think Jacob will be going. I mean, if he does, we're going to be keeping him very, very close to us.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. He's a
because
little
even
fella. He ain't very big.
yeah, well, even if we don't run into anything, but like Les knows, there's still things out there that can hurt you, and they can
Oh
hurt
yeah,
little dogs, and that can hurt little dogs. So,
yeah. You got coyotes. You got all that good stuff out there.
yep.
That's for sure. But you
Yeah,
want to tell everybody? Oh, go ahead, Les.
I tell people, the coyotes. Everybody's like, oh yeah, they're usually scared. They run. The bears don't bother me at all. Now, when you're out and you hear the coyotes, you want to be wary. I mean, because they can come in. I've actually had it happen. I was camping one time, and this was during broad daylight, and my son was with me, and we're investigating a Bigfoot sighting here in West Virginia, and he looks at me and says, "Hey, Dad," he said, "There's a deer coming down through the woods," and I'm like, "Where at?" And he said, "I seen it just come up, just right up the hill here." So I'm sitting and watching, and next thing I know, I see brush moving. All of a sudden, here it comes. This coyote was trying to sneak into our camp, and we're both of us stand there, but he was still coming into the camp. And luckily, I spooked him off, and I should have shot him, but I didn't. But I just spooked him off. But yeah,
I had one sighting. Well, we have a bunch of coyotes here too. We had a mountain lion sighting too here this summer, but they don't exist around here, so don't let that out.
That's the same thing here. I've taken multiple people tell me, yeah, they've seen them, they see them, and they're not here. But here's the thing. Here's the thing with those sightings, and with what the DNR, what some of the DNR won't tell you. Some of the DNR will straight up say, no, there's. If you got to watch some of the wording, there's no eastern mountain lions in the area anymore. They're extinct. That's possible. That's probably very, very, very well is true. But I have talked to 3 different DNR officers. One was a retired. He was after 45 years of service. They all 3 told me the same thing. They all 3 told me, we're to tell you the eastern mountain lion does not exist in West Virginia. But what people could be and are seeing, which there have been sightings, is the western mountain lion migrating this way. And I actually talked to one. Well, I didn't talk to this. I talked to a friend of mine whose brother-in-law is a DNR officer in Pocahontas County. And I was talking to my buddy, and I walked into his because he has a game checking shop, and he sells the ammo, guns, and it has all that. And I walked in, and he knows what I do. And he looks at me and said, "You find him yet? You find the big guy yet?" And I'm like, "No." And I said, I just want to ask you a question. I said, of all the guys that come in here check game, all the hunters that come in here, has any of them ever told you they've seen a big cat? And he looked at me like I was asking him something completely taboo. He looks at me and does this, like nodding over to go to the end of the counter down away from the main counter. And I walk down there and he leans over and he's telling me, he said, a few years ago, he said, I had a regular come in, and he said he walks up to me, talks to me for a minute, and he says, "Hey," he said, "I killed a mountain lion." And my buddy's like, he said, I looked at him, he's like, "Yeah, you're full of it. You didn't kill mine. They don't exist. They're not here anymore. They're extinct." He said, "I'm telling you, man, I killed a mountain lion." And this supposedly took place, between the Marion County and the Wetzel County line, somewhere up outside of Mannington. I'm rattling off names like some folks don't know where it is, but he said the guy looks at him and said, "You don't believe me, man? You come to my house." He said, "I'll show you. It's in my freezer." And my buddy went up to his house, walks in his garage, and he had a big chest freezer in the garage, and he opens the freezer and he looks in there. He said, "There it was." He said, "There's a mountain lion in his freezer." He said, he picks it up, looks at the head and stuff. And he told the guy, he said, "What are you going to do?" He said, I don't know, So he said, "Well, you can get a lot of trouble if So nothing ever really came about it. My buddy didn't say anything, and I guess I don't know, that fella probably disposed of it or something. But a couple months later, he was actually in Pocahontas County fishing with his brother-in-law, and they're sitting on the bank of the lake or stream. I don't remember which one he told me. And he said, I just decided to say something to my brother-in-law. And said, hey, this guy coming in my shop the other day and said he killed a mountain lion. And his brother-in-law, he said he was, taking back what his brother-in-law told him. He says, brother-in-law looks at him and says, yeah, I don't doubt it. He said, what do you mean they're not supposed to exist, man? He said, you guys say they're extinct. He said, I'm telling you, I was holding this thing in my hands. And he said, his brother-in-law goes, yeah, probably so. And that's when his brother-in-law told him the same thing the other DNR agents have told me. And then his brother-in-law told him something else. He says, the best way to know if it is an eastern mountain lion, it would have to have a DNA test if they had it, and they could DNA test to see if it actually had a lineage from the eastern mountain lion here that was here. 2, if it came from like a zoo, if it escaped from a zoo, or if it maybe somebody had bought it, somehow through that kind of the big cat trade or something. If it was followed, if all the rules were followed, it would be inoculated, and they could do a blood test and find that out. Then he dropped a big bomb. He says, if it's one of them that we have released, it will have a tattooed number in its upper lip. And I was like, nobody's ever told me that before, and that's the first time. And my buddy's like, I was just shocked, that there may be mountain lions here.
Yeah. Yeah, you really want to get them going. Tell them there's Black Panthers here.
Oh yeah.
So I can attest to it. I wasn't there. I didn't see it, but I know 3 guys that seen one up the hollow. I went left to go up to.
I've heard stories about that area for years, Chris. About my dad used to tell us, when we were kids. Well, maybe it was a cautionary tale back then, but he used to tell us. He said, "Man, don't go out in the dark." This is when we was at my grandma's, or when we lived on Michael's Hill over there. He's like, "Don't go out, don't go here, don't go there." He said, "Because the panther will get you." He said, "There's Black Panthers up here; they'll get you." Maybe he knew what he's talking about, or maybe just one of them cautionary tales.
Yeah. I mean, see, we're a stone's throw from Pocahontas County where we're at.
Yeah.
So we're very close to where a lot of that sightings have been. So it's not unusual to see a mountain lion, at least.
Yeah.
But they also claim that there's no wolves here either. And I've got pictures from several people that have spotted them, and pictures of wolves and pictures of the tracks.
Well,
so,
the thing about the wolves, whether they're migrating in from somewhere else, but I think a lot of those could be domesticated. The wolves that like a hybrid that was domesticated. Because I was in Braxton County a few months ago, and I was doing some research on an old grave, and this graveyard was actually on a property in Braxton County. And the guy told me how to get to it, and I walked past. They actually had an old double wide trailer that they use as a kennel, and they had like 5 that you would swear they were full blooded, gray wolves, and they would, me as an uneducated eye with it, but to me that's what they look like. I mean, they didn't look like some kind of like golden retriever wolf hybrid. Right. They looked like I mean, they had the paws like it, and they. Yeah, so I knew somebody else that had breeding pair years ago in Marion County, so that's not out of the realm of possibility that there's wolves. I mean, are they full blooded? I'm not sure. Are they a hybrid? Possibly, because there's been so many of them that's been around that people had them. It used to be a novelty thing. I have a hybrid wolf, and I have a
yeah.
So I think that may be where a lot of those come from.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there.
Yeah. I mean, up here where he's talking about Marion, Wetzel County, you can travel. God, you can go to New Martinsville in the woods. I mean,
yeah,
there's a lot of woods up here. I mean, it's crazy. The trails, the old tram roads and stuff. They go forever up here.
Yeah. Yeah, well, where we're at, we're nestled between the Massanutten Mountain Range and the George Washington National Forest on the West Virginia side mountain range. So, and we're right there in between them. So we get a lot of thoroughfare traffic going, from Massanutten Mountains over into West Virginia, and with a lot of these predators and stuff. And I remember one time driving on my way to work at about 4 o'clock in the morning, heading south, and here I saw this huge gray. The only way I could describe it was a silverback gorilla, but it was huge. It was like Mighty Joe Young huge, walking on all fours right in front of my square body Chevy pickup truck. And they didn't even care I was driving, had the headlights on. Just walked out in front of me, went up through this deer path, this trail, up into the going towards the mountains on the other side of on the West Virginia side. And I swear to God, to this day, that thing looked like what they call the Grafton monster.
Yeah. There's been right around the Summersville area. I've taken a couple reports of what looks like the Grafton monster. It was large, white. Could be white, but I don't know if that's the same thing or what they consider the West Virginia white thing. Which you take many shapes, but one of them was basically like an ape-looking thing that was running on all fours right there, just the other side of Powell Mountain. It was running across there. There's a flooded part there with the beaver dams, and it was running through that area and actually jumped the fence and ran across Route 19 there, or is it 19 or 119? I can't remember. But supposedly, they seen it, and it had I guess it had a head, but the Grafton monster, they said not to have a head, but I don't.
Yeah.
That was
it has a head. It's just pushed down in.
Down.
Yeah.
But I mean, it didn't. I don't think it fit that description as far as the Grafton monster, but as far as the collar and stuff, I think it kind of did.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had all kinds of sightings around here. We've had dogman sightings. We've had you name it. We have all kinds of weird stuff happening around here lately. So
yeah, I wish I had got that picture. I wish I'd have had you send that to me. The thunderbird or the bird, the scally. What do you call it again?
Snallygaster.
Oh yeah, the snallygaster. Yeah.
Yeah, that picture you got it because it's awesome. I mean, it's a big ass bird.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Well, kind of the original descriptions talked about it being almost like a dragon type thing and have tentacles, and the mouth had shoot out tentacles. Let me see.
Yeah, like an octopus, basically.
Yeah. I looking here in this book. Yeah, here's an artist depiction of it. My buddy Mark Randall. I don't know if anybody can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, Tombstone's on. Hey, Tombstone, how you doing, buddy? But
oh, good.
Yeah, Sasquatch Mama. Yeah, that was the the Powell Mountain goat. It was there for years, and supposedly has just they think it died off, but disappeared, and they now there's like a not memorial, but whatever you want to call it. Someone put a wooden cutout of a goat on the rocks down there that you can in memorial of the Powell Mountain goat. When I seen that goat several years ago, I was driving along because I was driving a truck and I was going down through there and looked up and I seen this goat, and I went back and told my boss and stuff and the buddies I had at the shop. I said, I seen a mountain goat, and they're like, you're full of it. And I said, no, I swear to God, man, I seen a mountain goat down next to Summersville. And then we later learned that it was a goat that went feral, I guess, and wandered around, but it stayed along them rock cliffs.
Yeah, those mountain goats are pretty big. So,
but well, I guess we'll call it an evening because I know you're getting tired. So.
Yeah. I gotta take some pain medicine here. I'm getting to the point where I can't even move now.
Yeah, I know you look like you're tired, brother. And I know you got a show. What do you got going on this week before you go?
Oh God, we've got Into the Red Rabbit Hole Friday night at 10 o'clock. We're going to be talking Super Soldiers program, and probably get into the Dogman aspect of it too, and other things. And we'll go from there. Saturday and Sunday morning on the weekend paranormal weekend morning brew show. we're going to get into all kinds of different things. I'm going to give it a rest from the reptilian thing and the Hollywood thing, only because I think I brought a little bit of heat down on me from that Hollywood thing that I did the other night.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So, but we'll get into all kinds of stuff. We'll be doing a couple more sticker giveaways and all that too on the show. So it'll be a blast. It'll be a blast.
Always is. It always is. I love the show. Well, how can everybody get a hold of you?
Well, they can get a hold of me at lakotaman333@gmail.com, or they can go to William Nighthawk on Facebook and friend me there or message me. Or they can just go to Nighthawk High Strangeness podcast channel on YouTube and subscribe, or Facebook and add themselves. So
He always pastes it on my Facebook group. Whatever's going on. Try to keep up with
I appreciate it.
I try to do it.
It's like I said. Yeah. It's hard because we got so many extended family members that have their own podcasts and stuff and their own niche and stuff on social media. So, but we do try. At least we all do try and look out for one another, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
So,
Wes, you want to tell everybody how to get a hold of you and your YouTube channel? And
yeah, you just need to call the local strip club I'm in there about every week. No, seriously, no. No, you can get a hold of me by hitting me up on Facebook. I don't have anything else really. I have Facebook under Les Odell, or I have West Virginia Cryptids and Strange Encounters. You can hit me up there. You can email me at pioneerles@yahoo.com if you have something you want to share with me, or you can see, check out the YouTube channel. I put stuff on there every so often. It's the same as the Facebook page, West Virginia Cryptids and Strange Encounters.
Yeah, and I know you'll be doing you'll be helping with the Bigfoot Festival too, right? This year.
Yeah, it'll be June 24th. I think we might do something on the 23rd again this year. I'm not sure. We have the speakers. I got all the speakers lined up because that's the part I'm in charge of, the speaker symposium. I can't release the names of them yet, but there are four good speakers coming this year. And I'll be doing
which Bigfoot festival?
The West Virginia Bigfoot Festival. The West Virginia Bigfoot Festival.
Right. Not the one in Sutton. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Because I know there's another one in Richwood, also, but that one's in March, I believe. So
yeah,
good. West Virginia is getting some good things out there. So if y'all can make a Bigfoot festival, do it. I've been guest speaker at them, and I've vend at them, and I do all kinds of meet and greets at them. So my wife and I, Tracy. So yeah, get out, because they're fast, man. When you get out there and you can meet the speakers and talk to some of the artists out there that do their thing and sell their goods, it's always a good thing to network with people. So
this will be the third year. The first year because we opened I helped open the Bigfoot Museum in Sutton, and we had a soft opening. And the owners of the museum's like, hey, we want to do a festival. I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. When do you want to do it? And they're like, when we have the hard opening. I was like, well, that's in like 3 weeks. So 3 weeks we put together a festival. We had the town didn't expect very many people to come. The fire department was going to sell food. They expected maybe 100 to 200 people come. So the first year we had about 1,500 people show up. Then the second year we made it like a 2-day thing. We had Jeff Meldrum come in on the Friday. He done a banquet and talk, and then I had all the speakers lined up for the next day plus the festival. We had there was 70 or 80 vendors, and the town was overwhelmed. We had between 5,000 and 6,000 people come in the second year, and they're good. They're looking to do the same numbers this year, and their hope. They want it to grow, but they don't know if they want it to grow much bigger than that right now, because it was the logistics of it was kind of rough, with the town
Well,
and the
yeah.
infrastructure of the town with having that many people in there. But yeah, we're hoping it grows even
Yeah.
larger.
Yeah, something's not very big.
That'll be
is it?
good.
No, it's not very big at all.
There's Shane. Hey, Shane,
Well,
what's going on?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time to call it in. Let William get off of here.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to call it a night, guys. Les, it's good seeing you, brother.
It's nice to meet you, and hopefully one day we'll meet in person.
Together. We'll get together.
Good night,
brother. Don't worry. Chris, I'll
good
see
night.
you later, brother.
Okay, good
All
night,
right.
everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Buddy.